fundamental rights. Now we'll move on to the next part of the constitution, which is part of your syllabus and also important, which is your DPSPs, or directive principles of state policy. And directive principles of state policy are mentioned in articles 36 to 51 of part 4 of the Indian constitution. They've been borrowed from the Constitution of Ireland. Constitution of Ireland, in turn, actually borrowed it from Spain. So the origin of this idea of directive principles for state governments are borrowed from the Irish constitution, which in turn had borrowed it from the Spanish constitution. What are these DPSPs? Basically, these DPSPs, like the name itself suggests, what policy states can uphold. They are supposed to fulfill certain principles. They are directed by certain principles. Each state can have its own policy. A state can have a policy for its language. State can have a policy about working hours. State can have policy about wages for laborers. Every state has their own labor department, has its own you know corporation, bank system. There are so many different schemes or uh, policies that each state government has, but they cannot go against certain principles. Those principles are known as DPSPs, which direct state policy. Principles which direct state policy are called as directive principles of state policy. And even though there are many different ideas which people give with regard to DPSPs, basically you can just understand that it came from the Government of India Regulation Act, which was 1935. Until the Constitution, this was regulating our country. So Government of India Act 1935 already had what is known as Instrument of Instructions. So DPSPs took some amount of inspiration from this instrument of instructions, which were given in the Government of India Regulation Act of 1935. And what does it basically do? It ensures that states don't become autocratic, states don't become antisocial, states don't become against certain principles that we as India stand for. That is the idea of these DPSPs. Therefore, it seeks to establish economic and social democracy in the country by ensuring that states don't cross that line of decency or democracy or socialism or what principles we stand for. So, are these DPSPs, supposing these DPSPs are broken tomorrow, supposing a state does not does not follow a particular directive principle, or kind of is in offense of a state directive principle of state policy, it can't be legally enforced. It's a moral enforcement. It's not a legal enforcement. There are many cases where the courts have been asked to decide on violation of DPSPs, and the courts have said we cannot legally enforce DPSPs. They are only a moral binding rule. Okay, so keep that also in mind. And interestingly, DPSPs, when you talk about DPSPs, there are quite a few number of DPSPs mentioned between 36 and 51 article. And those are in one order. And the first few speak about the socialistic principles of India. The next few speak about Gandhian principles, which Gandhi besought for our country. And the final group of DPSPs give out liberal and intellectual principles. So India stands for a socialist country. India honors Gandhian thoughts, and India is also a liberal society, and we want to improve the amount of intellectualism in our society. This is the idea of these DPSPs. We'll just see some of the DPSPs that are listed in our constitution, so you'll get an idea of what we're talking about. So socialist principles, what are the socialist principles that are put up? So these socialist principles ensure that states are giving social and economic justice to everybody. During the drafting of our constitution, untouchability and caste bias and religion bias and class level bias was rampant in India. So these DPSPs were meant to tell the states that all these evils of caste bias, untouchability, and all that will not be tolerated with. So they wanted states to be able to provide social and economic justice to every citizen of the country. So it requires states to promote welfare of people through social, economic, and political justice schemes. So nobody will be treated as antisocial or out of society person. Nobody will be not given equal opportunity to earn. Nobody will not be, taken away the right to vote, or nobody will not be shunned from political life. To secure citizens with rights available by constitution, so fundamental rights will certainly be given to every state citizen. So a state will not say fundamental rights stands for India, we will not give you those fundamental rights tomorrow. Every right that a citizen has under the constitution is available in every state. To promote equal justice and free legal aid to people, you can understand that line. So everybody is equal before the law. If you're not able to afford somebody to argue for you in court, you can even get free legal aid from the state government. It provides the right to work, a right for education and public assistance in case of unemployment. It also gives a right for people who are in the old age and sick category. So everybody has a right to work. You can't say this particular person belongs to a particular community, therefore he will not be given an opportunity to work. Everybody has an equal opportunity for education and public assistance in case of unemployment. Even the old age and sick people also get equal rights in each state. To make provision for just and humane work and maternity relief, so no state can ill-treat an employee or ill-treat a person and say that you don't deserve something that you are rightfully is yours. We will not give it just because you are in my state. You cannot say that. So if there will be provision which will be just and for every humane work, it will be given. Maternity relief will be given for women who are undergoing their maternity. To secure a living wage and decent standard of living to everybody, states have to ensure that everybody is uh, having at least enough means to make a living, standard, decent living. To take steps to allow participation of workers in management of industries. So this is one principle which is in use to form these unions. So when industries are there, in the management, workers should also have a representation. So tomorrow they are not ill-treated or they are not cheated by the industry. So they must be allowed to participate in managing the industry as well, to raise level of nutrition of people and improve public health in each state. So we see these different social welfare schemes that come up in, say, kind of a state like Tamil Nadu. There are so many social schemes that are available. Take Kerala, social schemes are there. There are some social scheme neglect in certain states in North India, but not all. North India also has enough of socialistic scheme. Take for example Bihar. Bihar has been leading the way in North India with their social schemes. People are given jobs, people are treated equally, people are nourished well, women are encouraged to work there. So we are slowly, improving in all these socialistic principles. Then there are Gandhian principles, which were inspired by Gandhian ideology because of his involvement during the national independence movement. His idea of India, his ideology of India had to be a part of directive principles. So under the Gandhian principles, states have to organize village panchayats and give panchayats powers and authority to function. So this panchayat scheme was envisioned by Gandhi, and constitution gave it as a directive principle, and it is quite well adopted in our Indian states. And panchayat rule has been one central pillar of ensuring democracy. To promote cottage industries, so Gandhi was for everybody having their own industry at work. He was talking about the earlier form of entrepreneurship where everybody can make their bread by working from their home itself. To promote voluntary formation and autonomy of cooperative societies. So this idea of cooperative societies that government sets up and allows private partners to enter on a MOU with the governments and work on a cooperative way, use common people in society as employees, and improve uh, the level of money that they are earning, the level of education and occupation in the society, creating jobs, and all that was also ideology envisioned by Gandhi to promote educational and economic interests among weaker sections of society and protect them from injustice and exploitation. This was again Gandhi's idea of India. So states should not exploit people or be unjust to people just because of their educational and economic levels. To prohibit consumption of intoxicating drinks and drugs, Gandhi was never for allowing alcohol sale in India, liquor sale in India, drugs and all that also. So states are asked to prohibit this liquor and uh, drugs. Okay, so these are based on Gandhian ideology to represent the program of reconstruction enunciated by Gandhi during the national movement. Enunciated by Gandhi would mean propagated by Gandhi, thought of by Gandhi. Okay, this was what he preached or taught people. So that is what enunciated means. Next, there are also liberal and intellectual principles that I told you about. So this pictures India as a liberalistic society where everybody has the right to be free. Everybody has certain freedoms granted for each and everybody. Okay, so that is what liberalism means. So liberalistic and intellectual principles, they expect the states to secure for all citizens a uniform civil code throughout the nation. So this uniform civil code, we're talking about it today, especially during this age of citizenship amendment and national citizenship registry and all that we're talking about. We're talking about this uniform civil code today. But the liberal idea of uniform civil code was not to put everybody into one civil code. Rather, it it was envisioned in such a way that a uniform civil code will be given to everybody,